From the heart of the Copart auction, in the middle of the crowd of cars searching for a second chance at life, we brought you a beast from the beasts of Porsche, a Porsche Cayenne Turbo, model 2017. Its model is considered modern, and its specifications make anyone dream of it. The YouTuber Vlad decided to bring it back to life again, turning it into a clean, roaring monster on the asphalt. But before we start, don't forget to subscribe with us here at Twin Power, and let's roll the German machine. At the beginning, he took his trailer and went to the Copart auction in the city of San Diego, California. He drove a long distance until he reached that big auction site. The road was full of beautiful natural scenery, but all his focus was on that car. The distance was about 138 kilometers, and it took him around an hour and a quarter to get there. But honestly, the Porsche was worth it. And it wasn't going to be his car after the repair, it would belong to his friend Serge. He arrived at the auction, and of course, there were so many cars there. Some of them had minor accidents, and their prices were really good. There were a lot of opportunities for people looking for a great deal. But for him, this Porsche was the deal among them all. The car had only done 27,000 kilometers, which is a very low number for a 2017 model. That means the engine and transmission were still in their original condition, assuming they were undamaged and they weren't heavily used at all. That's a very strong advantage that distinguishes this car from the others in the auction. If you look closely, you'll notice that the impact was concentrated in the front part. The hit affected the bumper, the headlights, the grille, and of course the wheel. The suspension system would definitely need work, but it might be a simple fix. Sometimes these issues can be complicated, but in this case, it seemed like a normal one. The surprise here was that the intercooler, which cools the engine, a vital part in any turbo car and an essential component for maintaining the engine's condition, looked intact and had no visible damage. That's a very good thing because it will save on repair costs. The rim had some damage, but the wheel housing from the inside didn't have any harm. The internal structural parts were fine, which means there was no structural damage. The frame and body were untouched. And that's the most important point in any car that's been in an accident. Everything is built upon that. So the damages were mostly cosmetic, unless something else appeared later during repairs. But for now, that's very reassuring at the beginning of the purchase. There was also a small scratch on the side, something barely noticeable compared to the front impact. The rear part of the car wasn't affected by the accident at all. Everything was in place and intact, just some dust from the road and parking. With a simple polish, it would look brand new again. There was also a small dent on the other side that could be repaired using the PDR technique without even needing paint. One of the advantages of cars at auctions is that sometimes they come with low mileage. Maybe the insurance company or the owner decided to get rid of it quickly. The interior of the car was a distinctive red color, giving it a sporty and luxurious look. There were no visible defects. Everything inside was in excellent condition. The car had only one previous owner before it reached the auction yard, which indicates that it wasn't mistreated by multiple people. It was clear the owner took great care of it before the accident. The Porsche key, however, was missing, so he had to go to the Copart office to try and get it. After a bit of discussion with the employees, he managed to succeed and got the key. He started securing the car onto the trailer using 4 straps, one on each wheel, to hold it firmly in place so it wouldn't move during transport. He double-checked that everything was properly fastened and secured before setting off. He reached his workshop and parked it until the next morning. The first issue Vlad faced was the wheel locks, a small problem in appearance but complicated to solve. He couldn't remove the wheels because of these locks. They're special bolts that require a specific key to loosen. The problem was that the key was missing. He tried to order the correct one from the dealership. Theoretically, the dealer should have a record of these types, but he was surprised at how complicated it was. He discovered that there were more than 50 different types of those wheel lock keys, which made the situation very difficult. A huge number of different patterns, and each key was made specifically for its car, so there was no way around it except to go to a Porsche dealership directly. When he did, they managed to identify the correct key number, which was number 56, so they could order it for him. After that, he went back to the workshop to start working on the Cayenne. The first goal was to unload it from the trailer, which was a bit difficult, especially since the front left wheel was completely unusable. The wheel was totally bent and wouldn't turn at all. Besides the wheel itself, the steering arm was broken, which kept the wheel from aligning straight. That part is responsible for controlling the wheel's direction and holding it in position. So of course, before he could unload the car, he had to fix that issue. It wasn't possible to take it off the trailer as it was. It could cause more damage. He removed the wheel and decided to weld the part temporarily just to make the car movable. That was a clever solution, and enough to let it move around inside the workshop. He reinstalled it in place, which allowed the wheel to align properly. Then he brought in a spare wheel and mounted it. Finally, he managed to unload the car successfully. Once it was inside the workshop, he began removing all the damaged front parts, from the sensors to the larger components. Everything had to be taken apart carefully. He examined every centimeter of the car's front section thoroughly and confirmed that the damage was mainly cosmetic, mostly limited to the outer panels, nothing structural. The parts that needed to be replaced included the fender bracket, and he found out that the intercooler actually needed to be replaced after all. It wasn't as fine as initially thought. The front suspension system also had several components that would need replacement, and the tie rod arm too, since the temporary welded piece had served its purpose and now had to be replaced with a new one. The hood fortunately was intact and had no damage. The new parts had to be original Porsche parts. He decided not to use any aftermarket ones to maintain the quality of the car. Genuine Porsche spare parts guarantee perfect performance and longer life. One of the first parts that arrived was the plastic bracket for the front headlight assembly. The part that holds the headlight and keeps it fixed firmly in its place, exactly, along with a special metal bracket for the fender. This acts as a strong metal frame that supports the new fender. He also got a completely new fender and its extension, that little piece that continues the fender from below, plus 2 air ducts, one inner and one outer, for the cooler. He got a front bumper and its lower section, the left side grills, and finally, the fog lights. So he began with the first and most important thing, the suspension system. The strut he got was used because the new one was extremely expensive, as is always the case with Porsche's spare parts. However, the tie rod was new. He removed the wheel and started dismantling the old strut. He also removed the steering arm and brought in the new strut to install it. Of course, he had to make sure it was firmly secured because if it's not fitted properly, it can cause loud knocking noises later. That way, he finished the suspension part and everything was back in its proper place, correctly adjusted. Then he installed the new fender in place, and after that, he reinstalled the wheel. He adjusted the gaps between the fender and the door perfectly, just like it came out of the factory. With that done, the car was ready for painting. He sanded down the fender completely and part of the door to smooth out any scratches. The parts that were going to be painted were the fender, the door, and the front bumper only. The rest of the car was totally fine. After that, the remaining parts arrived, a new intercooler from the dealership and a new upper support beam because the old one was damaged. So he began removing the old support beam and took off all the metal and plastic parts from the car's front so he could remove the damaged beam properly. Then he installed the new support beam, followed by the new intercooler. He removed all 4 rims from the car and put on spare wheels instead, smaller-sized, temporary ones. These spare wheels are a clever and useful invention because they save trunk space and reduce overall weight significantly while still allowing the car to move for a limited time at a low speed until the original wheels are fixed. The plan was to send the rims to a specialized shop to be powder-coated in black. Powder coating lasts longer and is more resistant to scratches and heat. The color choice wasn't random, of course. It was to perfectly match the car's main color. Even the brake calipers were going to be done in black as well. He also removed the side trims, the panels that decorate the car's sides, to paint them in the same color as the car. These trims complete the look of the fenders and give the doors a more refined and sporty appearance. At this stage, Vlad went into the details of his painting plan that would turn this car into a true work of art once finished. The trims, the side mirrors, and the rims would all be painted in metallic or glossy black. He started removing the rear lights and the entire rear bumper as well. The rear door had a small dent, which he was going to fix using the PDR technique, just as he mentioned earlier, without any repainting. That's one of the advantages of PDR. It preserves the car's original paint. Also, the dent wasn't deep enough to have damaged the original paint, which was lucky because it meant he didn't need to repaint the whole door. Next, he prepared the lower front part of the bumper, the rear bumper spoiler, and all the fender extensions, those flares that sit above the wheels. Preparation included thoroughly cleaning those parts and sanding them. The cleaning process ensures there's no dust or other residue on the surface, and sanding helps the paint adhere properly and not peel off over time. He began mixing the base coat, the layer that gives the main color. The mixing process had to be very precise to achieve the exact same shade as the rest of the car, since that color defines the final appearance. He sprayed 2 coats of the base layer to ensure the paint was evenly distributed without visible brush or spray marks. After that, he applied 2 coats of the clear layer, the varnish or final coat, which gives the car its glossy, luxurious shine and protects the paint from weather and minor scratches. Once the painting stage was done, he started the reassembly work. First, he reassembled the rear bumper, which involved fitting all the small components inside it, a lot of detailed parts that can easily get confusing if not organized properly, like the brackets, rear grills, and lights. The bumper looked much better after the lower part was painted in the same color as the car. The difference in the final appearance was very clear. After finishing the bumper assembly, he started installing it back onto the car. The process felt like assembling a puzzle. It required focus because the clips could easily break and the screws had to go exactly where they belonged to avoid gaps or misalignments. He then installed the rear lights properly in their places and mounted the spoiler, which sits right above the trunk. This spoiler helps stabilize the car at high speeds, and personally, I think it's one of the most eye-catching features of the Porsche Cayenne's design, giving it a very sporty look. Now let's move to the wheel step. The rims were completely refurbished and painted black. The black color suits the Porsche Cayenne perfectly, especially when combined with red, one of the most distinctive color combos for this model. He also fitted new Michelin tires. Michelin tires are well known for their high quality and excellent performance on the road, ensuring maximum safety and driving comfort. He removed the old wheels and installed the wheel arch linings, which not only look nice but also protect the fenders from minor bumps. Then he installed the rims themselves, repeating the same process for all 4 wheels. After finishing that, he installed the side step, which made the car look wider since it matched the same color as the body. However, after mounting the rims, he discovered a problem with the front suspension system. It wasn't noticeable before, but now it became obvious. He noticed a clear difference in the gap between the wheel and the fender on both sides, meaning the wheel was too close to the fender on one side, unlike the other side, where there was enough space, about the width of 4 fingers as you can see now. Of course, this had to be fixed immediately for the car to drive properly and stay balanced. The cause of this issue was the control arm. Luckily, he already had a new control arm, also known as the lower suspension arm, ready to install. He had already replaced the strut and the steering rod, but the only part left to replace was that control arm. The last main part that needed to be replaced in the entire suspension system was the control arm. He started by removing the old control arm and taking it off the car, then installed the new one in its place. At this point, the Porsche was completely adjusted in terms of its suspension system and became very stable. The only thing left to do was a proper wheel alignment. He had to take the car out of the workshop and test drive it after all the repairs and mechanical work that had been done. So he drove it around the area near the workshop to make sure everything was fine, no strange noises, and the car was running steadily. Of course, he wasn't going to drive it for long distances or take it on the highway yet, not until the wheels were properly aligned. He took the car to a specialized workshop called Auto and Sprint Repair.
This is the workshop Vlad always works with for all his wheel alignment jobs. As soon as he arrived, the Porsche was placed on the wheel alignment machine. That device is basically a computer that measures every wheel angle with extreme accuracy. While the technician was inspecting the wheels, he noticed some movement in parts of the suspension system, which is completely normal after replacing any component or part in the system. While the car was lifted on the hoist to be inspected from underneath, Vlad noticed that the underside of the car was extremely clean, as if it were brand new. After finishing the wheel alignment work, the results appeared on the screen. All the wheel angles were perfect and within their green zones, which meant everything matched the manufacturer's standard specifications. That confirmed everything was properly adjusted. He also checked the caster angle, which is a very important angle that affects the car's stability at high speeds. It was now perfectly set at 8.6 degrees on both sides, an excellent result. With the alignment done, the car was ready for the reinstallation of the remaining front parts. Vlad went back to the garage, brought the front bumper, and all the plastic pieces on it had been painted in glossy black, giving it a sporty and aggressive look. He first removed the headlights to fit the bumper properly. Then he started installing the bumper in place, and once done, he reinstalled the headlights in their normal positions. He also fitted all the small parts that go behind the bumper, like the sensors and fog lights, and then mounted the wheel arch trims again in their places. Finally, he put the rims back on. At this point, the front of the car looked brand new, as if no accident had ever happened. The Porsche looked like it had just rolled out of the factory. Vlad then took the Porsche for a short drive to test it after the wheel alignment. It drove perfectly straight with no pulling to either side, which confirmed that the alignment was correctly done. However, he noticed that the front headlights weren't working properly. The daytime running lights and high beams were fine, but the low beams weren't functioning. There were also several warning symbols on the dashboard indicating a programming issue in the lighting system. These headlights are smart adaptive units that need to be programmed to the car's computer, so he had to take the car to a specialist technician who handles this kind of work. That technician had a new diagnostic computer capable of recalibrating and resetting the headlight system. Vlad left the car there so the specialist could take his time with it. A few hours later, the technician called Vlad to let him know the car was ready. The front headlights had been reset and reprogrammed successfully. The job cost him $156. After that step, it was time to inspect the rear lights, the brakes, and check the emissions. This inspection ensured the safety of the braking system and the newly installed tires, and that all the lights and signals were working perfectly. The emissions test also confirmed that the car wasn't producing harmful gases above the permitted level. Once all these tests were completed, Vlad received the necessary certificates proving that the car was in proper condition and met all the required standards. The next step was to visit the local DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles, which is the traffic and licensing authority in his area. There, they had to verify the car's vehicle identification number, VIN. A specialized employee opened the hood and inspected the VIN and the emissions label attached to the car to confirm that the vehicle matched the official paperwork. Now Vlad had all the correct documents ready to register the car and receive its license plates. With that, all the paperwork was officially complete. He returned to the workshop for the final stage, washing and detailing the car. A professional detailer arrived and began working to make the Porsche look literally brand new again. The process included a deep interior and exterior cleaning, full polishing, rim cleaning, and interior detailing to restore every corner of the car. Finally, the Porsche was completely ready for delivery to its new owner, Vlad's friend, Serge. The last scene showed the car driving out of the workshop, fully revived, brought back to life once again. We saw every detail of its repair journey from start to finish, step by step. So thank you so much if you've reached this point of the video. I know you enjoy projects where the focus is more on mechanical repair than just bodywork. In this case, the Porsche accident wasn't catastrophic, but it still required skill and attention to bring it back. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and get ready for the upcoming videos. They're going to be incredible. Also, don't forget to tell us in the comments what kind of car repairs you'd like to see next. That's it for now. Goodbye.